Real estate investing is one of the best ways to increase your wealth because the properties tend to appreciate over time, you get some amazing tax benefits from it, and you get cash flow every single month just from owning rental properties. But not every home is a winner, and if you buy the wrong ones, you could end up losing a ton of money. My name is Sean, and I make real estate easy, and my wife and I own rental properties across the country that give us enough passive income that lets quit our jobs and travel the world. But through the process of buying properties, we've also made some mistakes that have lost us money and gave us some big headaches. So in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys the 3 types of properties that you guys should avoid as a real estate investor. By watching this video, you can potentially save yourself tens of thousands of dollars and a whole ton of heartache. Now, the first type of home that you should avoid is actually going to be the one that's most appealing to most new real estate investors, and that's super cheap properties in pretty whatever neighborhoods. Now, everyone knows that I love buying good, long-term single-family properties in decent neighborhoods that we could possibly rent out as long-term rentals or mid-term rentals. But the huge downside to buying properties in nicer areas is that they're super expensive. Each one's going to be around $300,000 to $500,000, and it's a bit more than most new investors can afford. And when you're first starting out with real estate investing, you may not have this kind of money to start buying properties. So what most people do is they look for the cheapest properties in the cheapest neighborhoods. And if you look online now, you can still find properties for $30,000 to $50,000 in rural areas with low population. And these homes are going to be a little bit smaller, maybe 800 square foot and 2 bed, 1 bath, maybe 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and they're pretty small compared to regular single family homes. And on paper, these properties look like they would cash flow really, really well. And by the way, if you guys want to learn how to analyze a rental property, you can check it out over here. So in this example, let's say you buy for $50,000, you buy with all cash and it rents for $800 a month. Then even with a vacancy rate of 5%, property tax at 2.5%, factoring 8% for property management fees and 10% a month for reserves, you're still going to cash flow like crazy. You'll get 10 point something percent every single year. You'll get around $5,000 in annual cash flow. And it looks like a big moneymaker, right? But here's the catch. All these numbers here are lies, because the sad truth is, in these areas, the properties are going to be more worn down than you expect, so they're going to require more upkeep. On top of that, the tenant base in these areas are going to be hard to deal with. I mean, there's a reason why they're renting a $50,000 home for $800 a month instead of just buying that $50,000 home themselves. It's likely that they don't have steady income, savings, or credit. And while I sympathize with them, I really didn't enjoy my experience in investing in these type of areas and these type of properties. Because more often than not, at some point they stop paying and they leave the place in terrible condition when they leave. Some of our past tenants were even drug dealers who were selling out of our rental properties. And every time we have to evict someone for not paying or for disturbing the peace, we waste a lot of time getting them out, renovating the property, and getting someone new in. Now, unfortunately, even with our properties with great tenants in them, we still have some repairs that we have to do. And since most tradesmen charge per visit, regardless of how much work they actually do, every visit is going to be around $100 to $200. Now, on a home that brings in $4,000 a month, $100 here, $100 there, really doesn't matter. But on a rental property that only rents out for $800 a month, a $200 repair is 25% of our whole monthly income. And honestly, that's what shocked me the most about buying in a cheap area. The property itself may be cheap, but the operational expenses and all the repairs cost the same or even more than those same repairs would be in a giant metro. So for example, we have properties in like the Bay Area and Dallas, Texas, where there's millions of people who live in these areas. And I installed a couple of new air conditioning systems in them. I found a pretty trustworthy guy, and he actually gave me a pretty good combo deal to install a whole new system for just $4,500. Now, that particular home rents for around $5,000 a month, so we were able to make our money back on that improvement pretty quickly. But on the flip side, we had the same issue happen to one of our cheaper properties, and the cost was basically the same. So you can see, like, it just didn't make sense to have one property be worth so much more and bring in so much more income, but you have to pay the same amount for the same repair in a really, really cheap neighborhood. Like, that one repair basically wiped out our entire cash flow for the entire year. And don't forget, with all these properties, we're still paying property tax on them, insurance, property management fees, etc., etc. And let me tell you, it doesn't really feel good to spend thousands of dollars on a new air conditioning unit on like a $50,000 property. On top of that, finding these tradesmen in the first place in more rural areas is more challenging because there's less competition. There's less people in business in these areas. And because there's less people there and less competition, they can charge more money. So long story short, just because the property is cheaper in this area, in reality, the operational costs may eat you alive and it may not be worth investing there in the first place. The tenant base won't respect your property as much, properties are going to have more maintenance upkeep, and the vendors are going to charge you more money. So going forward, we're not going to buy properties in those areas anymore. We're not focused on buying properties in nicer, larger metros that we actually enjoy flying and going to. We're hoping that's going to give us a better tenant base, more appreciation potential, and better vendors that we can choose from to help us do our work. So even though it's very, very tempting to buy cheap properties, definitely stay away from these type of homes. You're going to have a hard time getting consistent cash flow, and you're going to have headaches every single month. Now, avoiding cheap properties in bad neighborhoods is just a start. There's another type of property out there that seems like a good idea to buy, but it's actually going to lead to a whole new set of problems. And that's condos and townhomes that are part of an HOA or homeowners association. Look, people generally want to have more space when they live. They don't want to live in a smaller apartment complex where they can hear the neighbors above, below, left, to the right of them. And they're only going to do it if they have to. And I get it. Some people might think that buying a condo means owning a prettier property with some nice amenities, where they only have to worry about inside the actual structure and they don't have to worry about anything outside of their own condo. They think it requires less maintenance because they only have to worry about their own unit. But the big trade-off is now you have to deal with an HOA, and you're gonna have to pay HOA dues for every single month that you own the property. HOA dues are a fixed additional monthly cost that will never go away. And in fact, they actually increase over time. On top of that, if there's a significant issue with the building, or if the community wants to do a major renovation, then they can call a special assessment and have you pay more money into the fund. But it's not just the fees that are an issue. There's something else about HOAs that can cause problems for you as an investor. Because being a part of an HOA restricts what you can and cannot do with your own property. Even if you own the unit free and clear with no mortgage, you still cannot choose what color you want the outside of the unit to be. And if you want to rent out your property, some HOAs even have regulations of how many units in the entire complex can be rented out at one time. So if you want to move somewhere else and rent your unit out, but the capacity met, then you have to be on a waiting list and potentially have your property vacant during this whole time while you wait. And on that same note, many HOAs do not allow you to rent out your units as a short-term rental or on Airbnb. So these type of restrictions and the mandatory dues greatly reduce the amount of earning potential that you can make from a condo. And plus, condos historically do not appreciate as well as single-family properties in the same markets. On top of that, condos tend to drop in price first during a market shift. And let me tell you a quick story about one of my friends dealing with this exact problem. So a friend of mine bought this high-end luxury condo in downtown Los Angeles a few years ago. And it came with all these nice perks, like a nice garage and a doorman, but he had to pay $900 a month in HOA dues. And now he's in a situation where he doesn't want to live there anymore. He wants to live closer to his work. But if he sold it today, he would actually lose a lot of money on it because after paying for the realty commissions and paying for all the closing costs, he'll have less money than he put into it. And renting it off isn't really an option either because the HOA dues are going to kill all of his cash flow. And that's not even considering if the HOA will allow him to rent it out or not. So as a real estate investor, I highly recommend that you do not buy a condo or a townhouse in an HOA. Okay, so the last two properties were pretty easy to avoid. Just don't buy properties in bad neighborhoods and don't buy condos and townhouses. But if you're buying single family rental properties, you definitely want to watch out for the next one. And that's buying homes with a concrete slab foundation. You see, I've purchased a lot of properties, most of them from the 1960s. And I actually like these type of homes because I actually grew up in one of them. So I understand the little intricacies here and there of owning these type of older homes. But one thing I really cannot stand are homes on concrete slabs. You see, a home in the United States are typically built in two ways. One is a concrete slab, and you put a house on top of it, and the other one's pier and beam, where you have a crawl space underneath. But the thing with a crawl space is you have easy access to everything underneath the house, like the plumbing and the ventilation system. But with a slab foundation, you don't have that luxury. Everything is concrete. So if you want to get to anything, you got to trench through it and start digging, and that can open a whole new can of worms. So for example, if I need to fix a drain line or a pipe under the house, I have to break open my floor, drill through the concrete, make the fix, and then fill it back up, and then redo the floors. All that takes so much time and energy and costs a lot of money versus just opening up the hatch, going underneath the house, making the fix, and then going back up. It's such a huge difference. At the end of the day, real estate investing means buying properties that make sense for you. Mistakes happen. Trust me, I've been there. But what matters is learning from them and moving forward. And the key is to focus on properties that fit your vision. What do you want to accomplish with real estate investing? And then move forward from there. Another key takeaway that I learned is don't focus on how many properties you own, focus on the quality of properties that you own. Because otherwise that vanity metric will have you chasing crappy, cheap deals in bad neighborhoods. Instead, focus on the right ones, the ones that have the most appreciation and cash flow potential. Avoid all the bad properties that I mentioned and focus on the great ones. Stay patient and you will become successful. You got this. And if you guys are like me and you plan on buying properties built before the 1970s, then you definitely want to check out this video where I show you guys all the things that you need to know about buying an older home. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you and I'll see you next time. Take care.